Hello, guys. Hello, guys. Big shout out to the African Superstar family. Yes, it's the one and only. I'm back at it again. Hello, how are you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing great. Yes. Ah, yes. Yes. Big shout out to the African Superstar family, guys. When you come in, you should know what to do by now. I haven't been live in a little while, so make sure you show your excitement in the chat room. Make sure you are on code. I'm coming with a proximity series tonight. I'm coming with a proximity series tonight. Yes. I'll give you guys a few minutes to get into the chat room. Give you guys a few minutes to get into the chat room. Hello, 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 guys. Try to get somebody in the chat room so that we can talk about this topic. I haven't done proximity in a while. Obviously, I'm on travels at the moment, and it's just my whole energy is a lot different when I travel. And obviously, I'm just having so many other things to be concerned with. So, unfortunately, I have not been regular with the channel. Please forgive me, family. Yes. We're waiting for you guys in the chat room. Shout outs to the family. Let's go ahead and play some music for you guys. Go ahead and play some music while we wait for you to get into the chat room. And make sure you guys can hear me. We'll give it up to the 5-minute mark. And maybe we'll bring it another day. Let's see there. All right. Can you guys hear me? Big shout outs to the family. Let's go ahead and play an African Superstar track for you guys. Obviously, I have a show coming up this Friday in London. I have talked about it. I think I'll post it to the community tab again. For those of you guys that are in town, perhaps you can come and see me. Perhaps you can come and see me. All right. Or African Superstar on the track. International award winning. You are. You are. Your words lift my spirit. Your love fills my confidence. Your smile, it makes me feel beautiful. Your presence makes me secure. For me, the heavens is where you're from. No words can describe you. Only I can say, to me you are divine. A mystery beyond my mind. You are simply one of a kind. You are a mystery beyond my mind. Your body is my pleasure. Your arms are my refuge. Your eyes look deep inside my soul. We speak a language no one else knows. Big shout out to Superstar Bella. She's the first in the chat. Big shout outs to her for getting this conversation started. Obviously, that was so close. Shout out to Superstar Bella, also mentioning our mission statement: strategy, maturity, and patience. Big shout outs to Superstar Bella. Yes, I am here in the room. Thank you so much for turning up, guys. I want to talk about this topic today, which is going to be part of my proximity series. And the topic is being close to wealth is not wealth. So I want to talk about what motivated this topic. I saw some people online, and this is really not uncommon for people in the Western world. I think it's Americans are notorious for bragging about their country and their military and being the best country on the world and all this stuff and the richest nation and all this stuff. And the reality is that the majority of the population is not living that way. The majority of the population is struggling. The majority of the population doesn't have any savings. The majority of the population is living check to check, and so on and so forth. When we get specifically into our experience as Black Americans or the diaspora, we know that we have, all the things that we also deal with. So I want to get into that today. Big shout out Superstar Bella, babe. Yeah, these are my new glasses. I haven't seen you in a while, but I got these late last year. So thank you for the compliments. Yeah, I quite like them. They give me a Malcolm X spirit. I think it's because of the thick black frame, but yes. So when we begin to really evaluate our quality of life, as we brag about these Western countries that we live in, I haven't seen people brag as much, from Canada or the UK or France or Germany. Americans really, really brag about their country. And a lot of people haven't even traveled for comparison to be able to say, oh, yeah, I've been to Japan and life in America is better than Japan. Or, I've been in Germany or I've traveled to Latin America. A lot of the people that really heavily promote the U.S. have a very limited understanding of the whole world. Yes. So I have 3 videos I want to talk about today. Being in proximity to wealth, so-called, is not wealth. Okay. It's almost akin to being staff. Let's say you work at the big plantation, for example. You don't own the plantation. You're not getting any royalties from that. Another thing that kind of motivated this topic, in addition to seeing people bragging online, was I watched yet another video about a handful of celebrities that sold millions and millions of records. People such as Bow Wow, T-Pain, Tony Braxton, TLC. And these people are dirt poor, dirt broke for all their contributions, and it's the same type of thing. People would obviously see them, know how popular their songs are. Some of those artists featured in movies, some of them had brand deals. I mean, we saw them everywhere in their heyday. Yet behind the scenes, they're having money problems. Some of them are having to file bankruptcy, and some of them are struggling, getting things repossessed or getting their homes foreclosed on. Being in proximity to wealth is not wealth, and this is another symptom of proximity, because when we live in these countries, we begin to project something that's not real. We begin to project something that's not real. And members of the diaspora, we know, for instance, our experience living in the Western world. We know what it's really like. And even in some instances, yes, you're educated. Yes, you may have a lucrative career or something like that. You may have visibility. Whatever you're doing may get a lot of eyes on it, and so on and so forth. But when you come home at night and you weigh it, do the cons outweigh the pros, or so on and so forth. Big shout outs, guys. Yes, please get into the chat room so I can see you there. Be on code. What's up, Selena? I see you there. Thank you so much for being in the chat room. Shout out to the African Superstar family. I haven't brought a proximity in a very long time. I think probably before I traveled, I traveled in May. So yeah, when I come out of Ghana, my whole mentality shifts, and a lot of things I kind of don't get confronted with in Ghana, I have to manage and negotiate here, and it really, really occupies and consumes my mind. So please forgive me for not being regular on the channel. Yeah, it happens because of my frequent traveling, but I do appreciate you guys being here tonight. Yes, I'm getting ready to get into the videos. I'm just giving it a few more minutes to let you guys get into. I have some video reference because I think that it's important that we begin to analyze our specific situations before we go around bragging about we're from the superpower and we're this and we're that. Okay, if your living situation doesn't reflect your in a superpower, hello, your savings doesn't reflect you're in a superpower. I watched this TikTok from this popular Nigerian personality. Her name is Tasha. She was on Big Brother Nigeria, and she's like an influencer now and into fashion. And she recently took a trip to the UK, and she posted this video saying that most of the Africans in the UK, for instance, are broke. And she posted this, and obviously continental Nigerians were clapping back and, oh, I don't believe you, and this and this and this and this. And she was saying, when I come abroad, it's difficult maybe to get money from people. People are so busy because they have to constantly work. Everything's so expensive, the cost of living. She's like, people in Nigeria are actually doing better in some cases. And it's just the truth. Yet the diaspora will be like, yeah, I'm from America, and this, but, what are your circumstances? What are your circumstances? At this time, you can barely do anything without a threat of gun violence, huh? You're living in a place, the cost of living is high, ownership is low. Most people are in mortgages if they're renting, not renting. I mean, when you get into tangible assets, even average people in Africa they own land, they might have family homes, some of them have trades or businesses. Education is very important on the continent. So most young Africans have done, their primary school, secondary school, up to university. Definitely by the time they travel. I mean, it's very rare that uneducated Africans or well, I can't say for other migrant groups, but primarily those from the continent, usually, if they are in their 20s or so, they've already done university, and that's the reality that Westerners have to realize is, yeah, we've been sold a idea that we're better off than other nations, all while having nothing to show for it, all while being indebted for our whole damn life. And my own generation, I think in both America and the UK, the current retirement age is 67 years old, versus our counterparts that retired, perhaps around 60 or so. Some of my generation is not even going to live to see retirement because either A, they can afford to retire, or B, they will expire before they reach the age where they can begin to claim their retirement. And so it's important for me to illuminate various aspects of proximity. Being in these environments gives us a false perception of how we are doing and how we are performing. And that doesn't actually mesh with the reality of how we live. And I know that it's a hard pill to swallow for some Western people to understand that, yeah, a lot of foreign countries, their citizens are a lot better off. The quality of life, the environment. I mean, I've seen a lot in my travels. Especially throughout Europe, you have great mass transit systems, you know, that make it easier and convenient to get around. Even international travel, you can take trains. You don't have to own a car. You don't have to deal with that added expense if you don't want to. You know, a better quality of life. And obviously, for me, it's no secret that I prefer Europe to America. But obviously, for me, Ghana is good for me. Ghana is the optimal place for me overall. But there are or were benefits to moving, to the UK in terms of a better quality of life, safer. You know, you don't have the incessant gun violence, the mass shootings, so on and so forth. You have food that is regulated more due to the government providing health care. A lot of the foods in the West and in America are illegal here in the UK. They use certain chemical components in America that are illegal here. What is that going to ultimately lead to in America? It's going to lead to illness. It's going to lead to terminal disease, maybe mental illness. And again, pedestrian lifestyle, which I think is more healthy. It goes without saying that unfortunately, a lot of Americans are lacking physical activity on a daily basis because they drive everywhere, or they work remote everywhere. And that's not good for your body. You have legs, you have toes, you're meant to walk. So I believe that, yes, in many ways, moving overseas to the UK was a definite upgrade. But obviously the proximity issue still is there. All right, so guys, I'm going to go ahead and get into my supporting videos today. Yes, guys, please make sure you take a minute and like the stream. If you like proximity, I have so many videos. I have a proximity playlist. I will repost it on the community tab following this so that you guys can catch up. It has been a while since I posted a proximity, but there's just so many topics about the dangers of us living in proximity to our historical enemies. How we think we can flourish in those environments is a flawed concept from the top. And this topic I'm talking about tonight is yet another example of proximity. Living in that society, you are claiming and ingesting a reality that's not your own. Yes, there's very wealthy and rich Americans, but that does not reflect even the majority of the population. The circumstances of the majority of the populations do not reflect the quote unquote prosperity of America. So let me go ahead and get into these videos. Make sure you guys like the stream. You can leave your comments and we'll recap after the videos. Okay.
Understand that if you're a U.S. citizen, you do not own anything. If you paid your house off, you don't own it. You have an equitable interest in the property, but you don't own it. Only way you can own anything in America, actually own it, is with something called allodial title. A-L-L-O-D-I-A-L. Allodial, I think that's the way it's spelled. A-L-L-O-D-I-A-L. Allodial title. Allodial title means God cannot touch it. No one. Because it's absolute owned by you. But if you don't buy your car, your jet plane, your boat, your house, whatever it is, and have an allodial title, then you don't own it. And the authorities can come in and take your home anytime they want.
Gentleman is talking about, again, the lack of ownership. And I can't stress this enough, because at the end of the day, if you don't own anything that you've paid or purchased or anything, that essentially means you're renting all aspects of what you have, and it's a deadly cycle, because we're literally using decades of our lives to pay for houses, to buy cars, this higher education, things like that. And at the end of the day, we don't have anything tangible to show for this. And I personally believe that this quote unquote home ownership stuff in America is the biggest scam of all, because, this mortgage that you're going to take is 30 years up front that you're dedicating to this house. Um, Obviously, those of you guys that are homeowners, during that journey, there's so many expenses that go with your house: the maintenance, the upkeep, the roof, the landscaping, appliances, all this kind of stuff. I saw yesterday, I believe it was on Facebook, a family who had closed on their house 3 days before realizing that the house was infested with termites. And by then, that was their responsibility to sort it out. Now, obviously, the realtor had to have known. I mean, you're not going to get an infestation of termites in a 3-day period. So unfortunately, they got sold a lemon, and they had to deal with the fallout. And obviously, it was very expensive because American houses are built with wood. And so if you have an infestation of termites, it's going to be devastating. But that's what the first video is. Let's move on to the second one.
I was
All right. So in this clip, this young lady, she's actually relocated from the U.S. to Ghana. She had a full episode on the Connected Minds podcast, which is a very excellent podcast, might I add. And she was kind of, comparing her situation as a business owner coming from America versus living in Ghana. And, this whole credit system, that's a whole nother thing where it allows you to buy things that in effect you really can't afford, you know, on credit. Which means that you're going to have payments and you're going to be in debt. And sometimes, it may take you a long time to settle those things. Most of us, I mean, I'm no different. When I lived in America, I had a car note, I had a rented apartment, I had student loans, I had all these things. And she talked about, how all those monthly bills siphon your income, you know and so again, it's a deadly cycle of work and pay, work and pay, work and pay, and then at the end of the day, you're not really getting ahead, versus people that live on a continent and it's a cash and carry place. You're actually able to compound your money more because your spending is less. So versus if you're getting, $5,000, $10,000 a month, and your expenses are 13,000 or 20,000, you're running in deficit. But if your expenses are, maybe comparable to $500 a month, and you make 1,000, you're able to save because your expenses are less. So that is actually an advantage, especially for Westerners heading to the continent currently, is, we can benefit from that currency exchange to allow us to get some tangibles on the continent, investing in business, land, property, things like that. And let me share the final video for you guys. Big shout out to the family. Guys, are you in the chat room? Hello, I don't see you there. Get into the chat room so that we can discuss these videos after this last one, okay?
I think the American dream is, or what they're trying to push the American dream as, is you work all your time to barely afford your rental, because most people are not going to be able to afford homes. They're going to have to rent. And the rents are almost just as much as what it would cost as a mortgage. So you have to work all these hours just to afford your rental. And sometimes you're not even able to go out and live life as a normal human being because you have your bills to pay. And they expect why people have mental health issues. Imagine, let's paint a picture for you. You leave your parents' house, you're by yourself, you start working, right? And this is if you go to college, because most people are not going to be able to get a $50,000 a year salary without education. It's kind of hard nowadays. You go into a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom apartment. Let's give or take, let's say average $2,000. So that's $24,000 a year at a $50,000 salary. You're probably bringing home maybe $38,000, right? But you're able to work overtime. Now, with overtime, is a lot more tax being taken out. But now imagine you're working 60, 65 hours a week just to be able to afford the ability to pay for your rental, pay for any necessities that you have, and then have something on the side to actually enjoy life. But you really don't even get to enjoy life because you're constantly working. And this is not to say like, oh, it's optional why I want to work overtime and this, that, and the third. No, this is mandatory for you to be able to have money on the side to use. But you can't even use the money. And that's just crazy, bro.
Okay, so at the end there, the guy starts crashing out a little bit as he begins to assess the situation. Which I mean, I totally agree because obviously, when you begin your life, your professional life, you have aspirations. Okay, I want to, get the house. Most Americans want the house. It's part of the American dream that we are promoted to pursue growing up in that environment. So I want the house. I want a nice car. I want certain clothes or be able to take holiday, these kind of things. So, you're driven at first. Okay, I'm going to do this. Okay, then overtime is there. So you're like, yeah, okay, if I work overtime, I'll be able to hit my goals faster. I'll be able to accumulate more money. And so what this man is saying, people are having to work overtime just to cover their living expenses, not even extra, not even, you know, um, entertainment or travel or anything. And unfortunately, so many people are not able to save because they're literally living hand to mouth. Everything they earn, it's right back out, it's rotated back out. Again, this is, in my opinion, a symptom of proximity. You are living in a prosperous place, a first world country, hello, with conveniences and amenities and all this stuff. But, I know countless people here in the UK, they spend their entire adult life working. They don't have friends. They don't have a lover. They don't have a social life. They haven't even been to London to go to museums or traveled the country or, couldn't even tell you the last time they went to cinema or a restaurant because they're literally working constantly. Obviously, then if you are a migrant, immigrant, whatever, a lot of them, they have aspirations back home as well. So I feel that for them, it's really difficult because they're living a double life. They got to maintain their life wherever they are, and then they're still trying to, remit things back home. So it's like a double whammy. But we can't rep these countries when our life does not reflect. Black Americans know they're second class citizens. Like, let's just be honest. We know that there's a difference in treatment between us and the non-black people. Same thing in UK. Why are you bragging on these countries like you're treated equally, like you're on an equal playing field, like you're actually benefiting from everything you invest? Why? One of the most difficult things for adults to do is take that inventory of their real life. And, following this broadcast, hello, I'm only seeing, guys, hello. There's 2 people in the chat room, and it says we have 12 people viewing. Hello, can you guys do the math? Where's the 10? Where are you guys at? Get on code. I'll wait. Commercial break. Hello. Commercial break. One and only. I'm back again. African Superstar on the track. It's the weekend, and ain't no place I'd rather be than here with you, and you here with me. Yeah. Got the sauce, boy. It's a beast chill. You ain't gotta lie, come close and keep it real. Swear to God, already know how you feel. It's a beast chill. It's a beast chill. You ain't gotta lie, come close and keep it real. Swear to God, already know how you feel. It's a beast chill. Guys, what's up, family? Where are you guys today? Hello, I'm waiting for somebody in the chat room. We have 2 people in the chat room and 12 people viewing. The math is not mathing, guys. Hello. If you're enjoying this topic, it shouldn't be difficult. Leave me some comments. What do you think? I've just played 3 videos. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Hello? Can you fathom? Can you comprehend? Seriously. Oh, man. Jeez. Big shout out to the African Superstar family. I'm going to be wrapping up soon because obviously it's a one-sided conversation today. But, I mean, one of the difficult things I think for adults to do, especially in this modern day with all this social media, is to be honest and take inventory of what their life really looks like compared to what they feel, how they feel or what they project. Only you know your financial situation. Only you know your ownership situation. I mean, you can take solace in the fact that majority of the people are in the same situation you're in. I realized that when I was in the West, yeah, I'm in that same situation that most people were in. Hand to mouth, working constantly, no ownership payments. Yeah, I was doing it too. But my whole thing was like, I don't want to do this, and the reality is that you can live a lot more modestly if you want to, so that you don't have to get caught up in all those, payments every month. That's not what they want. They want us to be consumers. That's what keeps their businesses flourishing. You've got a Netflix account, and yeah, you may have watched hundreds of movies and you've paid the company for those movies, but you don't own any of those movies. You've got a Spotify premium. You've got, I can't really use Amazon, I guess, because you have goods for Amazon. Amazon Prime, you get free delivery, I believe. But, a lot of these things that we spend our money on, and, what we get in exchange, it just doesn't equate. And then obviously we don't get anything tangible, to keep after those exchanges. And I mean, it's just a scam. It's just a scam. And if you look at your life's earnings, for instance, and you realize, wow, okay, at this point, if you calculate, let me just calculate for you guys. Okay, so I am 40. My birthday's coming up on Thursday, by the way. So I'll be 42 this year, right? So I started working when I was 15. Okay, I got a job at the local grocery store. Shout outs to anybody from Columbus, Ohio. I started my job working career at Big Bear grocery store. Okay. so far, that's been 27 years. Okay. That I have been working now, albeit since 2020, that's the last time I had a full-time job. So let's just go ahead and subtract 5. Okay. So for 22 years, that's how I've been working, had a job for 22 years. Okay. Now, let's just say, obviously, when I was a teenager, I couldn't make that much. I had part time when I worked at the grocery store, and I went to McDonald's. Um, I worked at the library. I had a myriad of jobs as I grew up. I went full time, let's see, in my early 20s. Okay, so let's just say, uh, yeah, so let's just say for about, let's just say 15 years to round it. Hello, guys. Are you guys there? Can I see you in the chat room, please? Gosh, it's always a struggle with you people. I just don't know why. Okay, so let's just say 15 years. Let's just say I made an average of 20,000. Okay, so give or take the figure we're going to use. I've so far in my working career, I've made 300,000 US dollars. Okay, so at this point, I don't own a house. I don't own a car. No land. Uh, no business. I have worked over half of my life so far. Like I said, I started when I was 15. I'm now 42. So I've already worked over half and nothing. You see, nothing to equate to that. But all that money is spent, though. All that money went back into, it went back into the environment. Obviously, I have spent substantial money on things I wanted to do, like travel, moving abroad, that kind of thing. Obviously, shopping, hair, nails. I've definitely indulged and took care of myself and spent well on myself, not just all bills. But the point is that that money has all been absorbed. The beauty about the cash and carry system is that when you have strength and you have youth and you work and you invest, you buy land, you build a house or whatever it is. When you get in your old age, you actually own things. People can actually retire with homes paid off and stuff like that in Africa, which a lot of immigrants, that's what they do. When they get to retirement age, they retire to their countries and live comfortably the rest of their lives. Unfortunately, for many of us in the Western world, that's not how it goes. So anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap up because obviously nobody is here. I want to thank the two of you that were in the chat room. Thank you for stopping by. Shout outs to Superstar Bella. Yes. And shout outs to Miss Selena. I appreciate you guys for being active in the chat room. Guys, I do want to remind you for live streams, you know, being active in the chat room is a requirement because obviously it's difficult to do live stream when no one is engaging. So we have several of you here today, and I don't know why you're not getting in the chat room, but I will catch you another time. All right. So big shout outs to the African Superstar family. Guys, I want to remind you, I do offer bespoke tours in Ghana or mentoring or consultations. If you are planning your moves to the continent, you need migration advice, I offer those services. You can get in contact with me at afrikansuperstar@gmail.com. I also have an upcoming celebrity tour with Mr. Taye Uhuru. That is October 19th through the 22nd. You can also get more information about that tour at www.tayeehuru.com. Yes, and of course, please make sure that you stream the African Superstar music. I've played a little bit of my music during this episode. I have a show this Friday in London. Yes, June 27th. So for my UK viewers, please make sure you turn up to that. If you're in the building, it will be at the Camden Club. That's at 7273 Chalk Farm Road. The postcode is NW18AM. What's up, Mr. Amara? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by and greeting me. Yes, yes, yes. Big shout outs to the one and only African Superstar family. Yes. And again, like I did mention, my birthday is on Thursday. I'm not sure if I'll go live again before my birthday, but obviously show your support. If you are new to my channel, make sure you subscribe. Normally we have a lot more engagement during live streams. I'm not sure what's going on, but big shout out to the African Superstar family, everybody who stopped to see me. Until we meet again, stay black and true. If you ain't black, just stay true.